border management is quite a big problem that needs to be addressed urgently. And if we are to improve the country's security, corruption of officials by illegal migrants is also then part of that problem. Some are of the view that the situation could change or even improve if the Home Affairs Department manages border security. eNCA reporter Kevin Brandt is tracking these developments, so let's cross over to him now for the very latest. Kevin, a very warm good morning to you, colleague. I mean, when we talk of porous borders, there seems to be multiple stakeholders here that are called to account, amongst them being Home Affairs, saying that perhaps if they manage some of the admin, behind migrants coming into the country, we wouldn't have such a big problem.
A very good morning to you, Tumela. Well, definitely an aspect that has been discussed in length over the last couple of years. In particular, we also saw in April this year where the Border Management Authority officially came into effect to iron out some of the challenges found when it comes to better securing the country's borders and addressing the issue also of unauthorized influx of people into the country. But I'm joined now by a former colonel. He used to be in the South African National Defence Force for 35 years, David Pedler. He's also the director of Apollo Risk Solutions. And he's going to talk to us a bit more about some of the issues when it comes to revitalizing and strengthening the capacity of South Africa to better manage the country's porous borders. Mr. Pedler, thank you so much for joining us on eNCA. Can you just highlight what are some of the challenges authorities find in the country to take better control of managing the country's borders, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for talking to me today on this matter. It's actually interesting. Just a quick one. I was researching this program, and I discovered that the up to 5 variations of the South African national borders on the internet at this stage. Whereas if you look at the nature of border control in South Africa, it's a very complex exercise, and we have, in order to achieve that, some 22 government departments involved in border control matters at the ports of entry and along the border line. Now, that in itself is quite complex, and in order to control that, we have appointed an organization called the Border Management Agency to control that, run overall by the Department of Home Affairs, which many people have accused of being the most incompetent and inept department in the country. Now, the controlling of the borders means that those organizations at the border posts need to be run, structured and controlled by the BMA, and that is a major problem. Now, as far as the Defence Force is concerned, operating in the border environment, the border is a massive area. We have 15 companies. There was a time we had 28 companies deployed, and the Defence Force is seriously under-resourced, has too few people to operate effectively, and a great shortage of funding to achieve what they should do. In the same way, the other departments, SARS, for example, are in the fortunate position because they are able to raise funding so they can support, to a large extent, their operations quite well. But with regards to the BMA, the other departments are able to second or hand over some of their officials to the departments, to the BMA, which is a problem because there are different levels of pay that are applicable, which means have to be sorted out. Also, of course, the other conditions of service, which are also different. That in fact gives a major problem with regards to the environment that these officials work in, and in itself then encourages the problem of corruption, which is a major issue along the borders, and also the general management of that port of entry.
Do you feel that we have the manpower as well as the expertise to bring about this turnaround that we desire for the country's borders, to ensure better security at the borders and to eventually eradicate the unauthorized influx of people here, but also to secure borders and to ensure that South Africa is essentially being kept safe. So do you feel that we have the necessary technologies also at our available to us?
Well, certainly with regards to the funding of the manpower required, there's a problem, clearly. The BMA is going to cost billions to run. I worked out, broadly speaking, it'll probably need something in the order of 20,000 people to run effectively across the entire country. That all 52 border posts must be manned by these people on a 24-hour, 365 days of the year, which in itself poses a massive challenge given our situation financially. The possibility that we could support our operations, that's now all the BMA, including the Defence Force, effectively by means of technology is probably true. But again, we're talking about funding. UAVs cost money, be able to fly. We need all sorts of radars to see people operating in the bush. And the radars themselves have their own problems. And then all sorts of small technology stuff like thermal imaging and so on. These will give you answers, but they're going to cost.
The South African National Defence Force has been under scrutiny a lot in terms of capacity, in terms of also maintenance within that entity itself. Do you feel that that entity specifically that deals directly with the law enforcement at the border posts would be able to then, so to speak, join the party to ensure that we reach the objective of securing our borders?
Well, as far as the SANDF is concerned and the equipment, again, this has been in the news quite a lot. The shortage of funding, which it necessarily plays itself out in terms of vehicles and equipment that the Defence Force should have. Equipment being not only trucks and vehicles, but also the Air Force support, which is necessary. And the problem, of course, arises as far as the Air Force is concerned, that we've only got effectively 1 or 2 helicopters which could be given to the Army to use from time to time. And they're not on permanent call because there are other jobs as well. The Defence Force's deployment of troops on the borders, we're working on 13 companies, and originally we had 28, and we thought that was just sufficient. So we're pushing the envelope in terms of numbers, quite frankly, and we can't afford to put more on the ground. In fact, with the current budget cuts proposed by Treasury, the chances are good that we will be battling to even keep those 13 companies there.
David Pedler, thank you so much for your time. Tumelo, there you've heard from a former colonel within the South African National Defence Force talking to the technical challenges that the authorities now have to face when it comes to securing the country's borders, also talking with regard to manpower and what exactly the numbers it will take for us to ensure better security at the country's ports of entry. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for also having that conversation, colleague. We also can't deny some of the challenges within the SANDF, which of course do include bribery allegations, where some members of law enforcement have been accused of receiving bribes, accepting bribes from those who are crossing the border illegally. So that's speaking into, of course, the SANDF's discipline as well, at least some of their members' discipline, but also Home Affairs officials, right? We've seen them being implicated in taking bribes and in facilitating illegal immigrants from coming into the country, as well as having illegal documents at their disposal. We've seen also Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, as the Home Affairs Minister, taking quite a very strong stance in dealing quite decisively with any official that is implicated in, of course, those activities. We'll continue to explore what could be challenging our porous borders and giving quite a strong challenge to South Africa in terms of maintaining them around the country right here on eNCA throughout the day. But thanks to my colleague Kevin Prant for that report.